Nick Wright, co-host First Things First, just doing great. Listen, I'm sure you handled yesterday's show with grace and humility. I was busy. I'm sure it was one of your more graceful shows. I did say this. I said we never waited for Michael Jordan to win 11 titles like Russell. We decided he's the greatest. And that we don't do it in sports based on most championships. And whereas Mahomes can do everything Brady can do now, Tom can't do a lot of what Mahomes can do.
Of course.
And his instincts now, with more experience, I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, they were down to 3 receivers, 1 leg, no run game. I got to be honest. It was about the best I've ever seen, considering what he was dealing with.
Yeah, it's the most impressive performance from the best player we've ever seen. Now, does that make him the greatest player we've ever seen? That involves the ring count and all of that stuff. But you mentioned Jordan not having to pass Russell. I think what's more instructive is this, Colin. When Jordan, to use that analogy, when Jordan retired the first time, he had fewer MVPs than Kareem. In fact, he would finish with fewer MVPs than Kareem. Fewer rings than Magic. The same number of MVPs and rings as Larry Bird. Yet, on his statue, it literally says, the greatest there ever has been, the greatest there ever will be. Because in 1993, people were like, accomplishments be damned. No one has ever played the sport of basketball better than Michael Jordan. It is outrageous to make the rules now for Patrick Mahomes. Well, we can have the discussion when he gets to 6 or 7 rings. As if Tom Brady didn't, in his first 3 rings, have an all-time defense with an all-time coach.
Right.
As if Tom Brady didn't go a decade between rings. So here's what I think. I think right now, this moment, Colin, if Patrick Mahomes never plays another down, he's one of the 5 best quarterbacks we've ever seen in this league.
Absolutely.
I think that Brady, Manning, Montana, Elway, Mahomes. And then there's another group of Marino and Staubach and Rodgers and Favre, and we can go through the list. In fact, we might do that at 3 p.m. today on First Things First. Tune in. However, he is already one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the history of the league, and I don't think it's debatable.
I've said this about Aaron. This is not a sudden retirement. They've kind of built this puppy up. They're ready in that division to win. I would rip the Band-Aid off. Not necessarily bad for either. I think both could flourish. Where are you standing on this?
I totally agree. And if you remember, and I got a lot criticized for this heavily for when I was on your show and on my show the last 5 weeks of the season, saying that Green Bay was being reckless and short-sighted by not sitting Aaron and playing Jordan Love. And everyone's like, oh, no, they have a chance, but they didn't. And you can say, oh, what do you mean, Nick? If they would have won their final game, what? They would have gotten the opportunity to go to San Francisco and get their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Everything fell perfectly for them. They still didn't even make the playoffs. This decision is a lot easier if they had played Jordan Love for a month, and if he's awesome, then it's a no-brainer, and if he's terrible, then maybe you do have to put up with Aaron's, call it, as you put it, eccentricity, pardon me.
Yeah.
However, given that Jordan Love's something of an unknown, and you know what Aaron is for good and for bad, I totally agree with you, Colin. If the Jets will give you the 13th pick of the draft,
do it.
You send that trade in immediately.
Yeah.
The flip side is, I wouldn't do that if I'm the Jets. I understand they're in this quarterback no man's land. However, much like LeBron has warped our vision of how good guys will be, in past year 15 in the NBA, Brady did that to us as far as how good quarterbacks will be past age 40. There is a very real possibility that Aaron Rodgers is never coming close to the player he was 2 years ago when he won his 2nd straight MVP. And if that's the case, he's wildly expensive, a bit of a pain to deal with, as you have pointed out, not as committed in the offseason as you would want a guy to be if you're bringing him into a new team with a new system. So I'd be hesitant. But the Jets just hired is the guy that he plays darts and cornhole with, Nat Hackett, to be their offensive coordinator. So I think they're all in on this, and I think they're trading for him.
Okay, so last night was one of those nights. So I watched the Lakers-Celtics on Saturday night. I thought it was a fantastic game, marred a little bit by a bad call, but be that as it may.
Little bit?
Yeah, it was bad.
My God, the NBA refs has invested his NBA media in making sure LeBron James doesn't approach Michael Jordan's legacy. Guy can't get a buzzer beater in year 20 against the Celtics. By the way, how long have I heard, Colin? Sorry, and I'll let you get to your question.
No.
You know what? Why doesn't LeBron James at the end of games drive to the basket? Why does he settle for jumpers? And he knows that I drive to the basket, you hit me with a 2x4, it's not going to matter. But go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
So, it's a very valid point. So last night's a great night. I get home, and I had a little bit of a ski accident. I'm fine, but I wasn't, usually I'm out there just, lifting weights all night and getting ripped. And I thought, no, I'm going to pour myself a bourbon and watch NBA, and LeBron and AD don't play. And I'm like, yeah, so what's the point? So I watched some Jonah Hill documentary. The point being is I love the NBA. I think it's a problem. I don't like it. Were you bothered by that?
Well, so I'm there. I was there. I'm a Nets season ticket holder. And, listen, I'm in a fortunate position. I also have tickets to go tonight to Knicks Lakers, so I'll get to see LeBron. But I had a buddy of mine that traveled in town with his son, a buddy named Prentice Penny, who's kind of in the entertainment business. They traveled cross-country to see a number of basketball games. One of them was that. And they, they just got unlucky. The kid sitting in front of me seemed legitimately devastated that LeBron was not playing. I don't know what you do, though. So I'm not, and I know people are going to kill me for this. When it comes to load management, the one guy I'm going to give a break to is the guy in year 20 who's played more minutes than any player in the history of the league. But as the league as a whole, I've heard Steve Kerr say, it's why I wish that we played a 72-game schedule. Here would be my concern, Colin. Even if they made it a 72-game schedule, then for the same reasons you want to load manage an 82-game schedule, don't you then load manage a 72-game schedule?
Sure, of course.
Don't you then all of a sudden just say, all right, guys, we want to be peaking in the playoffs, so we're going to play 60 of 72. I don't know that there is a fix here. The one thing that I have been adamant on, that I wish the league would almost send out something of an edict, is if you are on the All-Star ballot and if you are one of the guys that people show up to come see, can you please do your load management in your home games?
Yeah.
And because it's such a bummer for the fans, the traveling fans that when it's a league, Colin, that markets stars, that makes it about the individual players more than the teams. And when those guys come to Cleveland or Orlando or Charlotte one time a year and you don't get to see them, it stinks. And I don't know I wish I had a solution here. I don't know what it is. Yeah,
I do. You can't make an all-star game unless you play 90% of your starts in the first half, and you can't win a postseason award unless you play 85% of the games, which allows the missed 2 weeks with an ankle sprain, a bad back. Got to play 90% in the first half to get voted to be an all-star game, and 85% to win any MVP, any award. That stuff matters. Guys get bonuses. That's my by the way, for some guys it won't matter when they're on their 13th All-Star game, but it feels like it's semi-impactful. Now, I grew up with Kareem. Because of his personality, I was just watching Flying the other day. I was watching a 30 for 30 on the beginning of the Celtics-Lakers dynasty. It's fantastic. Another network, but it's fantastic. And, Kareem was a different cat. Academic, total intellectual, almost disdain for the media.
Yeah, punched Kurt Benson in the face, which was pretty awesome.
Well, come on,
remember that?
That was
Kareem's a legend.
He was.
I love it. No, listen, I love Kareem. I think he's a legend. That's back when, as you would say, when men were men. Kurt Benson, you're going to take a cheap shot at me, I'm break your jaw. Just how it works. All right, go ahead. As you were. Sorry.
What does it mean? Because I've never thought of LeBron score first. I think he's the Swiss Army knife in the history of basketball and the greatest overall player. What does it mean for his legacy to be the greatest all-time scorer?
Well, let's put some context on this, because this was considered the only truly unbreakable career NBA record. Kareem, in the last 55 years, Colin, 2 people have held this record, Wilt and Kareem.
Yeah.
That's it. Wilt was the all-time leading scorer until the early 80s. Kareem broke his record in the early 80s and then played another 8 years as the record holder, and it was considered unbreakable. So why is this not getting as much media attention as the latest Pat Beverly histrionic with a camera? So let's think about it. It might be because so many folks have wrapped so much of their own personal sports nostalgia and professional credibility up in the take that Michael Jordan is so unimpeachable and unapproachable, and this sure does put a wrinkle in that.
Yeah.
Because in 30 years, Colin, when people say, okay, make the case to me why this guy's the greatest ever. It's like, oh, does he have the most rings, Michael? Well, no, he has the same as Kareem and 5 less than Russell. All right, well, that's interesting. Okay. Did he do it for like the longest period of time? No, not even close. He actually quit the sport 2 separate times only to come back. All right, well, that's not it. Oh, but everyone says he's the greatest scorer ever. So he is that, right? Well, kind of. What do you mean, kind of? Well, I mean, you know, he's got 10,000 fewer points than LeBron and 6,000 fewer points than Kareem. For some context there, Colin, right now, this moment, Paul Pierce is closer to Michael Jordan's career points than Michael Jordan is to LeBron James's career points.
Wow.
That's true. Look it up. And so at the end of the day, when Jordan is sitting at 32,000 and LeBron's going to finish at 45,000, and people are like, oh, okay, well, then Jordan's better because the other things? No. Everyone agrees LeBron's a far better passer, far better rebounder, he was the more versatile defender, all these things. The case is going to be, wait, so why is this guy the best? Oh, I know. Because the era of basketball he played in was the best ever, right? He had to go through juggernaut super teams. So who'd he beat in the finals? Oh, a Blazers team that had 1 Hall of Famer, and then a Suns team that had 1 Hall of Famer, and then a Sonics team that had 1 Hall of Famer. Oh, was his conference unbelievable to get to those finals? No. It was Reggie Miller and a Dutch guy and Patrick Ewing and a guy who used to, play in the CBA and John Starks. So tell me again why he's the best ever. Wow. Oh, just because the media decided it a long time ago because he helped sell USA Today's. Seems foolish to me, but what do I know? I've only studied the game my whole life.
Well, listen, he's on one, folks. You got 2 weeks at Kansas City.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know what, Colin? In the same week, Patrick Mahomes is going to win the Super Bowl, and LeBron's going to break Kareem's record.
Oh, God.
I mean, if this is a simulation, it is done purely for my enjoyment. Things couldn't be greater. I got to tell you.
No, listen, I'm going to sit back and enjoy your graceful manner for the next several weeks. I enjoy it. I really do. Yeah. It's good seeing you, buddy. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.